And I wanted to kind of touch on some of the outreach that the Way does. Like at the start of this, I talked about, and obviously that has changed with COVID, but this isn't a congregation that is just there on Sunday. And so, you know, and I know about some around your activism related to like the Black Lives Matter movement. What are some of like the major areas of focus, and how is the congregation activated around those things?
Yeah, so you know, the Way is a Pentecostal holiness grounded congregation. A lot of people don't always know that because you know we don't have all these titles and stuff attached to our church. But our church flows out of a Pentecostal sensibility. It's my tradition. It's the tradition of my parents and a lot of us who have founded the church. And, you know, at the heart of Pentecostal Christianity, there's a fusion between both the body, the spirit, and the world. John Wesley, who is Wesley and the founder of Wesley and the Methodism, talked about there can be no personal holiness without social holiness, right? This idea that personal piety is not the purpose of Christian formation, that, you know, one's personal piety must bear itself out in a public space. And so the church that we've been blessed to steward, we're going on our 15th year, we started to pull together what we call the DNA of the Way. And there's kind of 4 things that really help identify our church. We say our church is home. It's a place where people can belong, where people can be seen, where people can know their names are constantly being called out. It's like the Cheers song. Don't you want to go where everybody knows your name and you're always glad you came? You want to be where you can see. Your trouble's all the same. Don't you want to go where everybody knows your name, right? So, you know, home, we take that seriously. What does it mean for us to be a family-oriented space that is not over-identified by either our last name as relates to home or our social categories, right? Knowing that there's difference and knowing that, you know, not everybody agrees on everything. But I often say you don't agree with yourself half the time on a lot of things, and you still have to learn to be at home with yourself. The second thing we talk about is because obviously it's a church, we are a congregation that takes spirituality very, very seriously, Christian spirituality very, very seriously. We are built around the life, the teachings, the mission, the model, the revelation of Jesus Christ in the world. We're unapologetic about that. We think that it gives us a broad range and spectrum of tools and lessons that are eternal, that can help us steward creation in a most just way. We talk about, we are a congregation that is serious about what we say de-churchification. And de-churchification is this sense that, you know, all of us have been a part of religion or church and have picked up and learned things that, you know, sometimes become an anchor or a weight more than a source of liberation. So what does it mean for us to de-churchify ourselves? For some of you who are not, you know, deeply spiritual or believe in church in an academic space, it may be called decolonize, right? Like, how do you pull away some of those parts of faith and religion that are accoutrements of white supremacy, human hierarchy, exploitation, capitalism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so all that sounds great to all of us who are like super liberal, progressive, et cetera. So we don't come out and say it like that necessarily, but we teach and preach in those kinds of ways, and we find that it does help folks feel liberated. Then the 4th pillar we talk about is justice. What does it mean for us to ensure that we demonstrate a way of discipleship where if you are a follower of Jesus at the Way, we are interested in saving both the soul and the body. We're not just trying to get folks into heaven, although we want that. We want heaven both here in the now and in the afterlife. And so because we know that people are catching so much hell in real life, then what does it mean for us to leave the 4 walls of our congregation? If you're a teacher, what does it mean for you to understand that your teaching is an extension of the heaven we're trying to create here on earth? If you are a sanitation worker, if you are a community member, volunteer, if you are an elected official, if you are an organizer, if you are an activist, like all of our work has to be about dismantling the kingdom of Satan, the devil, the evil one, the adversary, all that stands against righteousness and justice and peace and hope and life. So our congregation has been a fascinating, eclectic group of folks who have leaned into that vision. And, you know, you've already stated it's quite diverse, but it is predominantly Black. I say our congregation is about 60, 70% Black. And so the cool thing about that is that we don't have to surrender the kind of connection we have to the Black church, which one could argue has been an engine for all, if not most, of the jumps this country has had to make in order for it to become, as Dr. King says, deliver on that check that is written, right? A check of equality and justice and economic and political liberation for people. And so I'm blessed and proud, man. Yeah, as a pastor, when I see members of our church, like, you know, out there doing it, you know, it just makes me feel good because as I say to the congregation, I mean, I know a lot of people, so this may not always be true necessarily for me, but as a pastor, your congregation will meet and influence many, many more people cumulatively than a pastor would speaking up behind a pulpit, you know, once or twice a week. And so that's the best of the church in my mind. It's us going outside the four walls. It's us taking the best of our faith and bringing it to bear on the worst conditions of our society and being an agent of liberation, reconciliation, self-determination for those who, as Howard Thurman says, stand with their backs against the wall.